What's up, dudes and dudes to the internet? My name's Scyushi, and today we're going to be talking about how you end up crafting the Candy Barbarian. First of all, let me swap over to this mechanical beast. This class is insanely good and is a starting class in the game, but just in case you're free to play and you want to know how to craft it, Chaos Cores, first and foremost, which is essentially gotten out of Chaos Chests. And how do you get Chaos Chest? With Chaos Factor. Chaos Factor used to be earned through Chaos Coins back in the day, but those don't exist anymore. Essentially, as far as I've been able to track down, you get Chaos Factor based on the amount of money that you've spent on the game, as well as Patreon, which is weird because I don't think that you can end up like increasing your Chaos Factor in a meaningful way if you're just starting with Trove now. Next is 1000 Flux, which is super easy to get. Just complete dungeons or whatever, you'll end up getting Flux for loot collecting pretty much any resource in the game. Wild Cupcakes, which you can get out of gardening, but it's also just available in the candy biome, as you can see right here with the footage. And Glacial Shards, which is a ore resource that is located in the glacial biome, obviously. Pretty easy ore to notice. It's not really the easiest to see from far away. It's usually a lot easier to spot it underground in some caves. Today we're going to be talking about crafting classes, namely the Boomeranger, which ends up being one of the stronger classes in the game. So first and foremost, you need to have Chaos Cores. Where do you get Chaos Cores? Rarely out of Chaos Chests. How do you get Chaos Chests, especially as a free-to-play? Well, frankly speaking, you barely do. So Chaos Chests, you basically will end up getting the equivalent amount daily from your Chaos Factor, but the only way you can increase your Chaos Factor, as far as I know, is just from spending a heap ton of money, as well as Patron is going to end up giving you some Chaos Factor. With the other option, of course, being the leaderboard, but yeah, right. Flux is super easy, especially 1000 Flux. You probably already have that just by sneezing. Loot collecting pretty much anything in the game is going to end up giving you Flux. Primordial Flames are these and are pretty much just found in the volcanic biome. The description says that you can find them in other ore nodes, but that's not entirely true because usually they're going to end up being off on their own. Sometimes, however, you could just be going through an ore node and then you find a bunch of them, but they're pretty common, as you can see, especially in the underground of this biome. And a Golden Soul, which Golden Souls are pretty rare, but as it says, it's found rarely within ore nodes in most biomes. So if you see this, that's a Golden Soul. The Tomb Raiser. This is going to be entirely free to play accessible. So first and foremost, Chaos Cores. Where do you get them? Out of Chaos Chests. How do you get Chaos Chests? Well, there's the leaderboard, but more particularly, you'll get some of them from the amount of money that you spend on the game. Patron will end up giving you a little bit. It basically depends what your Chaos Factor is, and unfortunately, the description doesn't really say anything about it anymore. It used to be something that you could obtain not easily, but still something you used to be able to obtain, and now it's been drawn back a bit. Next will end up being Flux, which you need to get 1000 Flux, which is super easy. Just basically loot collect gear or anything else while you're adventuring, you'll have the Flux. 3 blank scrolls. Now, blank scrolls are fairly easy to come by. Basically, if you end up doing a recipe dungeon, getting the recipe, and then loot collecting that recipe, it doesn't matter which biome it's from, it'll end up turning it into a blank scroll. So here, for example, is a recipe dungeon in Forbidden Spires. You'll notice the big giant scroll as well as the icon on the map. Defeat the boss, open the chest. There's the scroll that we just then loot collect. And of course, Bleached Bones, which I think skeletons in Cursed Vale drop these. Oh yeah, they do. It's just not very common. But most of the time, you're going to end up getting these from Dragonspire Peaks. They're literally these skulls that you see around the environment. You just destroy those. There you go. We already got like enough. Today, we're going to be talking about crafting the Knight, the tanky boy, which is kind of really boring with his gameplay. You just hold left click, but he's quite powerful. Anyways, how do you end up crafting him? Well, first you gotta get Chaos Cores. How do you get those? Out of Chaos Chests. How do you get those free to play? Well, barely. You can get them out of the leaderboard. There's also, Chaos Chest weekly day or whatever, and then spending a certain amount of money will give you some Chaos Factor. Patron will double the Chaos Factor. Chaos Factor basically determines how many Chaos Chests you'll be able to get per day from farming dungeons. It's a whole thing. It's pretty crazy. Next is going to be Flux. 1000 Flux, super easy to get. Just loot collect pretty much anything. Loot collecting gear, you can get this in your sleep. mushroom chunks. Now that is going to be in medieval highlands. The mushroom enemies will drop it, but you can also get it out of gardening, which does mean that there is also going to end up being the random plants in the medieval highlands biome that can also drop the mushroom chunks. And lastly, enchanted wood, which is a resource out of Fae Forest, medieval highlands, Cursed Vale. You see this little stump, yeah, you shoot it, and then there you go. How you craft the Gunslinger free to play. Yep, the streak is still going. I'm on a trip to Mexico right now, so this is Scythe from the past, telling you about the future and why these videos are coming out. Anyways, first and foremost, you need to get your hands on Chaos Cores, which you get out of Chaos Chests. Free to play, the Chaos Chests are very uncommon to get. I think there's like a Chaos Chest day. There's also just the amount of money that you spend on the game. Oops, you can't do that free to play. Same with Patron is going to end up doubling the Chaos Factor, which is how you'll end up getting daily Chaos Chests. There's also the leaderboard, which if you're watching this video, you probably aren't on the leaderboard. Then there's the Flux, which is super easy to get. Just loot collecting various items like gear, whatever you find in the environment, super easy to get. And then bottles. Now, bottles description is just bottles are grown wild, found in the wild, or you can get it through gardening. And if I recall, they're more common in deserts, or maybe it's just that you can see them a lot easier. And then there's the bleached bones, which can drop from skeletons in Cursed Vale, but more importantly, you'll get it a lot more in the Dragonfire Peaks. It's just going to be this little skull head right here. You just get it super duper easy. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? It is me, Scyushi Man, and today we're going to be talking about crafting classes, more particularly the basic classes. Bro, there ain't nothing basic about, like, imagine being married to the pirate captain. There's nothing basic about him. He's got guns all the time. Oh, he's an American. Okay. How do we end up crafting this class? Well, it's going to get a little bit more in depth versus the starter classes that we've already covered. First and foremost, Chaos Cores, which are gotten out of Chaos Chests. And how do you get Chaos Chests free to play? Barely. That's the answer. You can get them out of the leaderboard. You can get them out of Patron, or the amount of money that you spend on the game. There's also, the loot day. There you go. So that'll end up giving you some Chaos Chests. Sorry, I know this is like kind of amateurish, the way that I'm presenting this guide to you guys, but I'm just kind of having fun with them because they're very, very straightforward. So next would end up being Flux, which 1,000 Flux, that's like finding a quarter on the ground. It's super easy. Actually, no, finding a quarter is not easy, not unless you're looking like I do every day, because YouTube doesn't pay enough. So you just loot, collect gear, anything that you find in the environment, whatever. Then you got golden seashells, which, yeah, you get the seashells out of the chest itself, as far as I recall. Yeah, you do. Okay. And lastly, the ancient scales, which suck because they involve fishing. Oh boy. Isn't this riveting? More particularly, you gotta end up getting specific fish, just random rare fish, and they'll end up loot collecting into an ancient scale. Now, let's get into it because there is a little... I saw an invisible Cubesley there for a second. There's a little bit more steps to this, just in case you're new to Trove and you don't know about fishing. So from the hub, you come down here. Here's where all of the fishing profession crap ends up coming into play. And you can see there's all these different items, including a basic fishing line that you get for Flux, and then lures, which you can also get for Flux. Eventually, though, you can end up just crafting these various fishing lines. And also there's going to end up being these fishing lures. The problem is the lures themselves, you gotta make sure that you see this tiny little icon in the top left, unless you're using one of the special lures, and then it'll end up counting down accordingly. Because even if you go to a fish pond, which you can barely see them on consoles, you won't see the fancy icon that you saw 2 seconds ago. Instead, you'll just have to look for a tiny little animated fish pool. But yeah, essentially, whenever you fish in those spots, every time you pull a fish up, it's going to end up counting down the amount of lures. One lure equals 100 fish, as far as I know. And there's no notification or anything to when you run out. So you gotta be really careful. I say this because, as you can see, I have an ancient boot. which means that I fished without having a lure, which means that I just wasted my time. The only way that you can get rid of these boots is by destroying them in the trash. You can't loot collect them or anything because it's trying to prevent fishing bots. I don't know why there would be fishing bots. So today we're going to be talking about crafting one of the basic classes, namely the Lunar Lancer, which the only thing that's basic about this class is the fact that he's got a grappling hook. As basic as it gets, right? I know. So in order to craft this class, first and foremost, Chaos Cores. Where do you get them? Out of Chaos Chests. Where do you get those free to play? Well, you barely do. So there's going to end up being Chaos Chest Day, Sunday, whatever. And then there's the leaderboard. Spending a certain amount of money will end up getting you Chaos Chests because ultimately Chaos Factor will determine the amount of Chaos Chests that you can earn for the day. And having Patron will also double that effect. So yeah, it kind of sucks free to play. That's going to be the one resource that'll probably bottleneck you. And then Flux won't, because you only need 1,000 Flux, which you just loot collect literal garbage, and you'll end up getting Flux out of it most likely. Then there's the Radiant Shards, which are a little bit weird and unorthodox because you're going to have to go, well, you can either go to Radiant Runes World or Cursed Skyland. For the sake of saving my time and sanity, we're just going to go to Radiant Runes. It's funny because saying that I'm saving what little sanity I have left implies that I'm a sane, well-adjusted human being. See that eye twitching? That's not normal. So anyways, dungeons within this biome are kind of a cakewalk so long as you have enough jump with the Cosmic Dragon. But yeah, basically there's going to end up being, where is the objective? This thing right here. You access the Dark Heart and then you destroy as many of these as possible and it'll end up giving you Radiant Shards for every single one of them. There's also just the dungeon itself, which is on a time limit. So you're kind of trying to just complete as many of these as possible. Oddly, this makes me feel very nostalgic because I distinctly have a very vivid memory of farming for these with you guys long ago on my Draco, back when Draco was the best and U6 was the highest difficulty. And then the last resource is going to be Fae Dust, which is dropped from Fae enemies, which is just in the Fae wilds. There's some Fae Dust. There's some more Fae Dust. Yes, that's all I see you as, resources. It's actually not the most common, but I did get some off of that disgusting worm, that gross, ugly worm, stupid, dumb, ugly, smelly worm. What is up? I was gonna say maggots. I guess I'm coming fresh off of the last stream video. I was gonna say stream. Oh my God, I'm losing my mind. Please, God, no. Let's just take that from the top and just say, welcome back to some Trove. That's what this game's called. Today we're going to be talking about crafting, and we're particularly going to talk about crafting one of my favorite old school classes, the Draco. I still so fondly remember back when I first started playing Trove. I think the Draco single-handedly is what kept me playing this game, because back when I played, you actually started with a couple different classes, and there was no tutorial explaining about the class changer. Of course, now we have the commodity of a button that lets us swap classes on the fly, but you used to actually have to go to a cabinet from Narnia to do it, and then your character would go inside and come out and be like, I'm changing, and you would swap into the new class. It was really cinematic and strange. So anyways, first resource is going to be the Chaos Core, which you get out of Chaos Chest, which is almost impossible to get free to play, but either way, it's not impossible. It's just almost impossible. There's going to end up being Loot Day, which will give you some Chaos Chests, I think. And then Chaos Factor will be what gives you Chaos Chests, which you get Chaos Factor from spending money, as well as spending money on Patron. Anyways, Chaos Core is going to suck to grind free to play, especially if you're just starting out. Because it's no guarantee you'll get it out of the Chaos Chest. But you can loot collect Chaos Chest items to get Chaos Cores. Anyway, Flux. 1,000 Flux, super easy. Just lift up your carpet, all the mold that's underneath it, you can loot collect that for Flux. Pretty much any item that you can loot collect in this game, more than likely will end up giving you Flux. It's super easy to get just out of gear or whatever. Then there's the Primordial Flames, which are mostly found in the lava biomes. It's an ore that is described as being found near Shapestone, Formicite, and Infinium veins. While that is technically true, you can find it a lot easier if you just go to Dragon Peaks, Fireland. Let's just call it Fireland, okay? It's this. This is the resource. Easy. And while you're in the same biome, you can also get your hands on some bleached bones, which is just going to end up being this skull right here. This skull in particular was my uncle, Ted. So today, though, we're actually going to be doing something a little different. We're going to be finally tackling the advanced classes. Now, I'm going to go through these in no particular order, but I thought let's tackle one of the most complex ones, which is the Vanguardian. Now, the Vanguardian requires sentient shards, which you get from rampage challenges, which are on the hour randomly. So, yeah, every time you see the message pop up in the middle of your screen that says there's rampage going on, you basically go into the Neonopolis city biome, and then you can end up finding these gigantic monsters, which I should have some footage on the screen for you guys to see. But more importantly, there's going to end up being these extra items. So this is the intriguing kernel map and the coded message. So how do we get those? Well, you're also going to end up finding it in the Neon City map because you're going to have to go to this. No, that's for summoning the Resistor's crafting bench. Yeah. So there's this one right here, which requires these various items, including a decoder ring. So plasmium you just get from enemies in these biomes. Same with robotic salvage as well. Blank scrolls, you just loot collect scrolls that you get from scroll dungeons. You know, like those, there's literally one right over there. So you just go and complete that dungeon and then you loot collect the scroll, and that's how you get a blank scroll. And then there's going to end up being the decoder ring, which is right here and requires various other resources. This just kind of is a rabbit hole that keeps on giving. So the charged circuit, which is crafted here at the workbench. Here's the charged circuit, which is, again, plasmium, robotic salvage, cinnabar, which you get as an ore out of the Forbidden Spires. The memory matrix, which is this right here. And as you can see, super cheap. Various resources we've already covered. Then there's going to be the plain metal ring. And this is, where is this one? Yes, silly me. It's crafted at a ring crafting bench. Where's my ring crafting bench? I know it's one of these, right? Oh no, it's over here because of the ring polishing junks. Yeah, so anyway, then it's this plain metal ring, which costs flux. Formosite ore, which you've seen in pretty much every biome in the game. That's just the blue ore. Looks like this. I find it pretty commonly in the candy biome, but that could just be random luck. So with all of those resources, you can craft the stupid decoder ring, and then you would be able to craft this. But then there's also the intriguing kernel map, which requires various other resources. I'm only going to cover the resources we didn't cover in these bad boys location, which is going to be chaos cores, which you obviously get out of chaos chests. Chaos chests, I mean, you get chaos chests through, like, I think some mastery and just spending money on the game. Yeah. But then there's also going to end up being the logic loop, which is right here. And this requires radiant shards, which we've covered in previous videos. You can find in the radiant ruins in the heart dungeons, the dark heart dungeons, and the shadow shard. Now, this is a resource that you can just casually find in the delves, but you could also go to the shadowy market and buy some shadow cash. Delves is probably going to be your best bet, but it would just end up being in this shadow cache, which requires shadow shards to craft them in the first place. Yeah, just stick to the delves, and I mean, frankly speaking, you probably already have one of these just lying around. So then you would finally be able to craft this item, and then you would be able to craft the Vanguardian. Now keep in mind, the sentient shards are awful to obtain. This is the one resource that is going to bottleneck most players, and why in most cases, I don't say this lightly, it's easier to just buy one of the packs to get the Vanguard, okay? Like, unless you get really lucky and happen to be in a club world that has like a big rampage summoning event going on or something like that, worst case, you can always craft these rampage summons, but it's ridiculously expensive in the long term, most of all because of the plasmium. I can craft 14 of them, and you need 60 of these sentient shards. Yeah. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Oops, I accidentally revealed my true voice instead of my commentator's voice. Let's get to it. So we're going to be crafting classes today. We're going into the advanced classes. I don't even know who I want to tackle today. I guess just because we're kind of going in order. Let's tackle the Bard, because the Bard sucks. Not the class itself, just the crafting cost. Like, look at this. We already covered the Vanguard, so sentient shards kind of fall under that category, but oh, all right. Let's just get this out of the way and say, first and foremost, if you really want the Bard, buy one of the store packs. It's honestly going to be cheaper to get a part-time job and just work like 1 or 2 hours at that job and then quit. And then you'll be able to afford the Bard pack versus the 20 or more hours of just solid grinding, locking in specifically to get all the resources for this godforsaken class. But if you like pain and suffering, sentient shards. So you know when random rampage events end up popping up on the hour? Yeah, those rampage bosses are what you're going to kill to get a sentient shard. You'll basically just find those bosses showing up here in the Luminopolis city. But there we go, I'm just trying to find one of these posts here so I can show you the Resistors crafting bench, which I'm pretty sure you can get in Club Worlds, but this way I'm showing you it vanilla. These beacons right here, if you can afford them, that's a big if, they're very expensive. This will summon a rampage boss, so this is why sometimes you'll see clubs having like huge rampage challenges going on, where you basically kill all the rampage bosses and then you get the sentient shard. But unfortunately, rampage bosses are coded the same as pinatas, so only the 8 surrounding people will be able to get the sentient shard out of it, if it even drops in the first place. Let alone, I mean, if you end up crafting these, at the very least, then the host that throws them down will guarantee a sentient shard. But yeah, it's really bad. Sentient shards are a very difficult resource to obtain. As if that wasn't bad enough, there's also the Bound Brilliance, which is specifically obtained from weekly class power rank leaderboards and from events. I don't know why it still says it's from events, because frankly speaking, it's been a long time since we had an event that actually gave us, you know, anything, let alone Bound Brilliance. But taking a look at the leaderboard here, we'll go to the classes. Where are they? Class power rank? I think it's only the weekly ones, right? The contested? Yeah, contests. So you're gonna have to be in the top 125 just to get some Bound Brilliance. You could get them very rarely out of these leaderboard reward boxes, if I recall as well. But yeah, the fact that those resources are so ridiculously difficult to obtain is pretty sad. The only reason I have so much of them is because there used to be this daily box that you could either log in every day during a month and then you would open those and they would give you Bound Brilliance, or you could literally spend money to buy the tokens to buy those boxes, and that's kind of what I did. I stockpiled because I saw the writing on the wall and I took advantage of it. There's also the free range electrolyte crystals, which these are easier to obtain than you would think. Most of all, there's going to end up being these, where is my boxes? The glowing crystalline cache? Maybe? Yeah, as far as I know, you get these boxes just randomly out of the delves, as well as maybe geode surface. I'm not 100% sure because it doesn't say in the description, and those just kind of clog my inventory, frankly speaking. But more importantly, there is going to end up being the pressure locked delve cache, and these are boxes that you can get out of the delves or geode caves. And these can end up containing the free range electrolyte crystal as well. But you could also just find the electrolyte inside the delves. I don't remember what tier they're in. It does say the deepest of delves, so I would assume it's tier 5, but I'm not 100% certain. And then there's the crystalline cores, which thankfully you're in luck, because crystalline cores are so much easier to obtain than they used to be. Most of all, I would say to refer to my gear guide videos. You know, after we ended up having the gear update, essentially it made obtaining gear, more particularly crystal gear, a lot easier because of these bad boys right here, the Gear Crafter Vaults. So just to give a quick summary, what you're gonna do to get the Gear Crafter Vaults is go into Forbidden Spires, because that biome has the most random elite mobs in the game, and every elite and every dungeon can end up actually dropping one of these, and these will end up giving you a various range of equipment, but you only have to be like, I think gear level, like power rank 20,000 in order to get like up to Crystal 4 gear. I don't know for Crystal 1 and 2, but Suffice to say, it's probably as low as like 5, maybe even 10k PR. I don't know. But the point being is when you end up loot collecting crystal gear, that's how you end up getting the crystalline cores. Or you could do the 5-star dungeons and so on. But generally speaking, these are way easier to obtain now. And lastly, Bardium. This is the resource and the very reason why you will more than likely just want to buy one of the packs that gives you this class. Because the Bardium is ridiculously difficult to get, because if you're at the early game, you will not be able to get to the tier 5 geode caves forever. It takes a really long time. I'm not going to go into too much detail with it, but you go to the Geode Sanctuary here, and there's all these crazy different mechanics that have since been abandoned by the game, basically. But more importantly, there's going to be these stupid caves right here. In order to even handle the deeper caves, you're going to have to get Omni tools so you can mine the Bardium in the first place, but you're going to have to get your gas high enough that you can survive in that biome, and so on and so on and so forth. There's just so many steps that I don't want to cover in today's video, because I don't want this to just turn into a complete cluster of, oh, now this has been hijacked by the geode caves. So I'll just say refer to my older videos, but even then, I know I didn't do a very good job of making tutorials on the geode caves specifically, but suffice to say, it is an extremely tedious aspect of the game that will envelop you. Because you're gonna go into these caves that are, since, you know, now it's the delves basically, and these caves will essentially have no combat whatsoever and have a completely separate progression system, which ultimately you will have to do if you want to get to the end game, because it will end up giving you Geode Mastery, and Geode Mastery gives you light, which makes you stronger. So assuming you know all of this Geode stuff, the point being is you got to find it in Geode like tier 5 or Delves tier 5. No, Caves tier 5. Good Lord. Or you can end up buying Bardium off of players, which is significantly cheaper than I remember. Good Lord. That's not that bad. I mean, it's still ridiculously expensive. So they're 3,000 a pop. So, oh, no, that's very expensive. Because, yeah. Oof. Yeah, because you need 6,500. But yeah, suffice to say, that's just one of these many other resources. So yeah, just suffer a little bit. You know, get like some part-time job or help your Nana mow the lawn or something, and get a couple bucks or just save your allowance or whatever, or sell a game, and then just buy the Bard instead. Ah, coffee is the nectar of the gods. Oh my goodness, hello! My secret is revealed, just like last time, but instead of it being my voice, now it's coffee. You're probably confused because you probably just tuned into this one video, but hi, how you doing? So today we're going to be going over to the Chaotic Combinator, and we're going to be crafting Dino Tamer. You guys remember, what was it? Maybe it's a Canadian thing. Dino Getty? And they had, it's alphabets, but it's dinosaur shaped. And it would be like, Dino Getty. There's something wrong with me that stuck in my brain. Anyways, how do you craft this class? Well, Chaos Cores, which you get for basically spending money in the game or getting these very rarely out of leaderboards. Good luck with that. You can loot collect Chaos Chest rewards, which you get. How do you get Chaos Chest rewards? You get them out of the Chaos Chest. You dumbo. I'm making fun of the game, not you. I think you get some of them out of Mastery, but I honestly don't really remember. Chaos Chests are like, they're difficult to obtain if you're free to play, honestly. This will probably be what bottlenecks you. The rest of these resources are kind of a joke. So there's the Flux, which... Yep, there's some flux sticking to my wall right now. You can find it anywhere. Meteorite fragments, which you find specifically in the tree canopy biome in the Jurassic Wilds. Not to be confused with the stupid swamp Shrek area, but instead up here, you're just going to be looking for these bad boys right here. That's going to end up being the meteorite. It's pretty easy to get. All you need is 50 anyways. Sticky Ichor, which you get from defeating bug enemies, just in general. There's lots of various bugs in various biomes, but Medieval Highlands has like an abundance of them. Frankly speaking, if you're watching this video, you probably already have enough Sticky Ichor. And the last resource is Bones, which you can find in one of two places, either from killing skellies in the Cursed Vale, not commonly, but still often enough, Or in Dragonfire Peaks, there's where the heck are they? Yes, I'm recording this while the event is still around. There's one. There's these little skull piles, and you can find them a lot. Like, they're all over the place, and you just destroy those and they'll give you bleached bone. I think you can also get the bones from gardening, but why? And then yeah, you'd be able to craft this class. Considerably cheap cost, considering how powerful the class is, and considering how fast it is. It's a speedy character. I haven't gotten around to recording the Dino Tamer's video yet, but yeah, regardless, he's kind of a powerhouse. Most of all, it's just the fact that he's a super speedy boy because you're on your ultimate dino all the time. And yeah, I mean, it's very, very cheap. Today, we go to the Chaotic Combinator. And we're going to go to the advanced class and go to the Fae Trickster. I don't know why this is considered a advanced class, but I guess whatever. It's still a pretty speedy boy. Anyways, let's talk about the crafting resources. Namely, there's going to end up being the Chaos Cores, which as far as I know, you get some of them from Mastery, you get some of them from the leaderboards, some of them from spending money on the game. There's a bunch of badges that'll ultimately end up giving you Chaos Factor, which determines the amount of daily chaos chest stuff that you'll end up getting. And more particularly, there's also going to be loot day, which will give you some extra chaos chests. So yeah, you definitely want to do that. It's not like I totally forgot to talk about that in some of the other videos. But then there's going to end up being Flux, which you literally sneeze and you'll have some in your inventory. Bless you. I know someone just sneezed while watching this video. But it is 15,000 Flux, so it is a little bit more, well, I guess all of these are quite expensive, but it's more expensive than the basic and starter classes at the very least. And then there's the Fae Dust, which you get from Fae enemies in Fae Wilds. So that's just this little biome here, and you could just do dungeons, you could just kill some normal enemies, and yeah, there's a chance to gain some Fae Dust. Also, I know that my hat goes invisible. That's to show you guys that I'm real, because I'm not hiding anything. Everyone's always wondering, why is he wearing a hat? What's under his hat? You can see nothing, right? No brain, nothing. How else do you think I keep playing this game? Then there's the blank scrolls, which if you end up finding one of these recipe dungeons, you can defeat it. You'll end up getting a scroll with a recipe. It's in any of the biomes in the game. And then you loot collect that scroll to end up getting a blank scroll. And finally, the last resource is going to be 100 diamonds, because you got to put a ring on it. Obviously, she floats. That's going to end up being out of the ring crafter's bench right here. And I mean, it's considerable, but you do craft 5 of these a pop. So bunch of Flux. Okay, cool. Primordial Flames, which are found in the Dragonfire Peaks. It's going to end up being this ore resource right here. And then Shapestone, which if you live under a rock, you might not have seen. It's pretty much in all of the biomes, but it looks like this, just in case you're unsure. Hello, everybody. Do you see my character's face? Isn't it beautiful? This is what represents my inner beauty. Speaking of inner beauty, today we're going to be talking about the Ice Sage and how you craft it, which you can see the resources up front are fairly cheap. But I want to go into detail with you guys. So there's Chaos Cores, which are gotten from loot collecting Chaos Chest items, which are gotten out of Chaos Chests. How do you end up getting Chaos Chests? Well, there's going to end up being Loot Day. There's going to end up being some stuff that you can get out of Mastery, I think. And then there's some Chaos Factor that you'll get out of the how much money you spend on the game. Chaos Factor determines the amount of Chaos Chests that you'll be able to get per day. Also, Patron, whatever, I think also gives you some Chaos Factor. Anyways, good luck with this if you're free to play. Then there's Flux, 15,000, not bad. You know, it's okay for an early bird player. Otherwise, anybody else is probably going to scoff at it like, ha, that's trash. It's like $15. Not even. And then there's going to end up being glacial shards, which are found in the frosty biome. Yeah, Canada. It looks like this. It's a resource that kind of stands out, but it also doesn't at the same time. I don't know. It used to be a lot harder to find this resource, frankly speaking, just because visually it was a lot more complicated. Then there's some blank scrolls, which if you end up finding any of these recipe dungeons out in any biome in the world, you just complete the dungeon, you'll get a scroll of that respected biome, and then you loot collect that scroll to get a blank scroll. And then there are bottles, which you can get out of gardening, but you can also find them in the world. I personally find these bottles to be the most common in the desert, but that could just be random luck. It's just going to end up being this thing right here. It says it spawns in all of the biomes. I don't know how true that is, but it does spawn in a lot of the biomes at the very least. And then otherwise, that's it. A relatively cheap class considering how powerful it actually is. It's actually one of the best in the delves. Not necessarily the best, I would say, but it's very easy to build and has a lot of survivability considering how it works in the delves. But anyways, I feel nauseous because I've been recording so much. That's the song that I say behind the scenes, and I wasn't supposed to share that with you. It's vital information that I don't want to share because people are going to misunderstand and think that I hate my job. But I don't. I like it. I like my job, okay? I like my job. I don't know what that was. Anyways, let's get to it. That high energy means only one thing, that we're going to be talking about crafting the speediest boy in the entire game, the Neon Ninja. You have to say it like that in real life. It's actually like... I checked, it's a bylaw. It's kind of weird. It's part of Trove's terms of service. If you don't say Neon Ninja, you'll actually get banned. Weird, right? Anyways, you need Chaos Cores. How do you get Chaos Cores? Well, you get them from loot collecting rare items out of the Chaos Chest. Well, how do you get Chaos Chests? If you're free to play, frankly speaking, you barely do. But there's going to end up being Loot Day. Cool. And then there's patron points will end up giving you some more Chaos Chests, and then how much money you spend on the game as well. It's all tied to Chaos Factor. This is like the resource where the higher your Chaos Factor, the more daily Chaos Chests you can get, which means the more chance you actually get of getting the rare item out of the Chaos Chest, which you then loot collect for the Chaos Cores. Moving on, Flux. It's easy. You can just breathe. And you'll start getting Flux. As soon as you start playing this game, you probably already have Flux. You just loot collect gear, no matter what part of the game that you're in. And then there's going to be Robotic Salvage, which you'll get from defeating enemies in the Neon City and Luminopolis, respectively, which are both basically the same. It's this one biome has two biomes within it, and it's just kind of old residue of like old Trove. And frankly speaking, I don't know why this biome wasn't just replaced by this new biome. And then there's going to be diamonds, 150, because you got to put a ring on it fast, otherwise he's going to escape. So you end up getting diamonds just at a ring crafting bench right over here, which requires more Flux, Primordial Flame, which is this resource right here that you find in Dragonspire Peaks, and then Shapestone Ore, which looks like this. I don't know anyone who doesn't know what Shapestone Ore is, but at the same time, I mean... Yep, there it is. And lastly, Golden Souls, which is a fairly difficult ore to obtain. Like, you can find it pretty much everywhere, but you're just not always going to see it in any pocket of ore, like not every pocket of ore. But it's just this right here, the little Zelda ruby inside it, whatever, Golden Soul obtained. And yeah, then you would be able to craft one of the speediest boys in the entire game. Pretty cool, honestly. You should check out my Neon Ninja guide videos if you're interested. In any case, I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope you found it helpful above all else. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are going to talk about crafting yours truly, the Shadow Hunter, my main character from many, many years. I've always loved this character, even when it sucked. I liked it before it was cool, okay? Which I don't know if that's a good thing. People act like it is, but I don't know. I guess you could say I'm a trendsetter. At least that's what I keep telling myself in the mirror every morning. So, first resource is going to end up being the Chaos Cores, which you end up obtaining out of Chaos Chests. And how do you get Chaos Chests? Well, there's Loot Day, which... There's the leaderboard. There's also going to end up being Patron, and the amount of money you spend on the game will indirectly give you... Well, not indirectly, directly give you Chaos Factor. The higher the amount of Chaos Factor, the more daily Chaos Chests you can end up obtaining, which means more chance of getting the rare items out of the Chaos Chest that you can then loot collect for the Chaos Cores. Then there's the 15,000 Flux, which is kind of the standard, whatever, you know, just loot collect gear, mow the lawn. Well, that just gives you Glim, but you could sell the Glim. I don't know, it's fairly easy to end up getting Flux, let's be real. And then there's the Radiant Shards, which you earn by completing Dark Heart dungeons found in the Sky Realms. Now, there is going to end up being these Cursed Skylands, which can very rarely spawn the dungeons, but instead we're going to go to the Radiant Runes world. The dungeons are just like a lot more common to find here because you're not going to end up finding any normal dungeons. You're just going to find these Dark Heart dungeons, which is basically just these. You just activate this thing, and then you're going to be on a invisible time limit. This is before Trove knew how to set up a clock, and you just end up like shooting all of these things as pretty much any class, or just punching them, whatever, if you're the Vanguard, and then it'll end up giving you Radiant Shards. And then you need some Somber Souls, which is not the best resource to farm. It is going to end up being found in the Cursed Veil, and it's not like it's inherently difficult or anything. It can basically just spawn on random ore pockets. It's just very random and not super common, but it looks like this. And usually you can find it in a few random ore pockets. I don't know. Sometimes you do got to dig the ore to find it underneath it. And lastly, there's going to end up being Crystallized Cloud, which this is actually the most common, easiest ore to get in the game. You can again find it in Cursed Skyland, but we're going to go to Radiant Runes again. Oh, or not. Apparently, we're not allowed. Wow, we're really not allowed. It kicked me back into the club world. Excuse you, game. There, geez. Okay, let me see if I can find some more for you guys. Keep in mind, it won't spawn on the islands that have cornerstones, if I recall, which kind of sucks because it means you can only find it on the biomes that the map can't see. But yeah, it's just this resource right here. And while you're farming for this, you can actually start getting fragments for the Cloud Dragon. This is a fairly difficult resource to farm early on just because of the sheer amount of time that it takes to mine it. Even in comparison to the bombs that you're going to use, but overall it's really easy. And with that, you'd be able to craft a Shadow Hunter, which has gotten a lot better over the years. For those of you that haven't been around more recently, the Shadow Hunter did get like a full-on rework and is significantly better both without the class gem and even especially with the class gem. More particularly, you can dash, and then you end up gaining a movement speed boost for a little bit. Fantastic rework. No, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it in every video. Blah. Yes, I was sleeping while I was playing Trove because it's so boring that all I do is sleep when I play this game. When I don't play this game, well, I'm awake now, and that's the important thing, even if I have a little bit of dementia left over. So today we're going to be talking about crafting the Revenant. Rev your engines, because here comes the fattest, chunkiest, slowest class in the game. This is what happens when I just improvise these intros. So anyways, let's talk about the Chaos Cores. So the Chaos Cores suck. If you're free to play, these are garbo. You basically get them out of loot, loot collecting rare items from Chaos Chests. How do you get Chaos Chests free to play? You don't. I mean, you can. There's the leaderboard, which will give you Chaos Chests, I think, for some of the rewards. There's also going to be Loot Day, will end up giving you an increased Chaos Chest drop chance. But based on the amount of money that you spend on the game, will increase your Chaos Factor. Patron will increase that further. The amount of Chaos Factor you have limits how many Chaos Chests you can actually get per day from completing dungeons. You're welcome. And then there's going to end up being the Flux, which loot, collect gear, just sell items. You probably have 15k Flux. It's not really that much. Then there's the Bleached Bones, which you can get out of Cursed Veil enemies, but more importantly, you can find these little skulls in the Dragonfire Peaks, and if you just destroy them, you'll end up getting some bones. It's a pretty consistent, easy way of obtaining bones. And then there's the Somber Souls, which you can end up finding in the Cursed Veil at random ore pockets. It looks like this. It's very random. Sometimes you can find it quite commonly, sometimes not. I'd say it's more common than a Golden Soul, but less common than everything else. I don't know if that's a fair assessment, but whatever. And then there's Wild Cupcakes, which you can get through gardening, but more importantly, you can get it out of Candoria. Dear God, I just realized Candoria kind of sounds like diarrhea. Candoria. Oh Lord, I can never unhear it. Anyways, these various enemies, more particularly these cupcake guys, can drop the cupcakes, but otherwise this is the cupcake that you're looking for. Get out of here. And then you can end up just get a bunch of them. It might not make sense initially. Why would cupcakes be required for the Revenant? I think whoever was in charge of the crafting recipe is fat shaming. Sorry, I can't say that with a straight face because it's a fictional video game. and this character is technically undead. But anyway, that would be how you end up crafting the Revenant, which is quite a powerhouse. Lots of people underestimate that class. You know, check out my other guide videos if you want to see more of the chunky boy. First, we must center our mind, and then we can tackle this video. Hello, I'm the guy from the internet that you watch because I play the block game. Today, we're going to be talking about one of the characters in the block game, namely Flower Man, aka Chloromancer. God, I remember when the Chloromancer was first being talked about and everyone got really excited at the potential of this character and what it could have been. Like how its ultimate ability should have turned it into a gigantic Venus flytrap that just noms all the enemies, but instead he just throws down bigger flowers. Let's talk about his crafting recipe, shall we? The Chaos Cores are going to suck if you're free to play, but if you don't mind spending money, then you'll be able to get plenty of them. Chaos Cores are obtained by loot collecting rare Chaos Chest items. Well, how do you get that? You need to get Chaos Chests. And Chaos Chests are kind of hard to obtain if you're free to play. There is going to end up being Loot Day, which will increase your Chaos Chest drop chance. But the amount of money that you spend on the game will increase your Chaos Factor. Patron will double that Chaos Factor. I think you can get Chaos Chests out of the leaderboard, maybe Mastery. I don't remember, but the fact remains that the amount of Chaos Factor that you have will determine the amount of Chaos Chests that you can earn that day from completing dungeons and whatever. Yeah, this resource sucks free to play. And then there's going to be the 15k Flux, which is, honestly, you could probably speed run that pretty early on, even if you just started the game. All you got to do is just loot, collect gear, and just, I don't know, shave your head, sell your hair. There you go, you've got Flux. And then there's sunlight bulbs. Now, this is a little, well, it's not difficult. It's just kind of a little unorthodox because it's going to be out of giant sunflowers that pepper the peaceful hills. What that really means is this biome right here, the dark green with the sunflower icon. Yeah, that can, hold on. I gotta teleport. Don't tell the devs that I'm cheating with my psychic powers, okay? Where's the sun? Where's the stupid? Really? Is this biome empty too? Oh, good lord. Wait, this biome's empty too. Wait, why? 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 Oh, I had a nightmare where I was making a tutorial and I was trying to show you guys where you get sunlight bulbs, but for some reason I was in Medieval Highlands, which as far as I know is the only world that can't actually spawn these, right? Because it's like the starter area of the game and they didn't want to confuse people. Anyways, you just find these randomly in the sunflower biome and, well, these are where you end up getting the sunlight bulbs. Anyways, the next resource is going to end up being mushroom chunks, which those are finally found in the Medieval Highlands. Like, yeah, sure, you can get it off of Toad there with the enemies being the mushroom chunks, or you can end up finding these mushrooms, which means that you can also get it out of gardening as well. And the last resource is the enchanted wood, which we all know why you need enchanted wood for the Chloromancer. Come on. Come on, don't make me say it. I should label this video for kids because my mind is a 12-year-old. But then I want to be able to monetize it. And technically speaking, that was an adult joke. And we're all adults here, right? Right? Anyways, well, you can end up finding the logs in pretty much every biome. Usually I have the best luck finding them in the Fae biomes. It's just this right here. Once again, you can get it. Get out of here. You can get it out of gardening too. And with that, you'll be able to craft the Chloromancer, which, yes, it sounds like chlorine. But anyways, it's a pretty good class. It was a lot stronger back in the day before they ended up nerfing it. But I'll talk about all of that in my guide already. You can click the card in the top right if you want to. Boo-hoo, boo-hoo. Why do I cry? You can see how emotional I am. And wait a minute. Hold on, I got this. Oh my God. Oh, I hate eye drops. Like in real life, I can't even do it. I can't even do it. I genuinely have like a stigma towards eye drops. My wife makes fun of me. I grew up with glasses. You might not know this. I had lazy eye, so I had to get eye drops constantly to get my vision checked. And it was just like, I don't know why. It just hurts so much. You know what? I'm just going to keep doing this. See, I'm crying now. I'm already all teared up. Why am I crying? It's not because of the eye drops. It's because this is the last of the craft glides. let's go to the Chaos Combinator. Let's just get it over with. We'll rip off the Band-Aid and talk about the hardest class to craft in the game. What a tongue twister. Please somebody help me because I can't speak English anymore. So this class, yeah, it sucks. Frankly speaking, it's one of the few classes that I would say if you absolutely want it, just spend money, lol. Buy the pack. Get a part-time job, do like one shift and then quit. Or just, help your nana mow the lawn or help your dad take the boat out. I don't know. And just buy the pack. Video over. Thanks for watching. Smash like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and buy the merch if you want to. The new store is significantly cheaper than it used to be because now I've migrated everything over to the new store. Okay, fine. Let's get into it. So first, there's the Phoenix Soul, and all of these resources are going to be crafted at the Uplands bench. So we go to Sundered Uplands, and we got to find one of the stupid outposts, which I think I just spotted one. Yep, right down here. So we just got to find the Sundered Uplands workbench, which we can technically craft these workbenches and put them in our club worlds, or maybe we find them off of enemies and put them in our club worlds or something. Anyways, the Phoenix Soul itself. Oh dear Lord. All right, let's get started. First of all, Phoenix Motes, an extremely rare resource. You know it's bad when the devs themselves typed out it's found rarely. You get it from bosses, invaders, and dungeons. I bumped my mic. I hope that didn't end up affecting any headphone users, but either way, this has been a bottleneck for me to get the Sundered Uplands Dragon for like the longest time ever. Granted, I don't 100% farm this biome, but here we are. Then there is the Iridium ore, which is also going to end up being the ore you find in this biome. More particularly, we'll find it way up here. I think that's some right there, if I'm lucky. Yes, there we go. So just this fancy golden ore. And then you need the Irradiant Power Cell, which is another resource found up top. Now, I do have a mod that points these out with this little icon right here, but you're essentially looking for one of these bad boys right there. And lastly, the Irradiant Soul. 15 of them. Oh, goody. As you have probably already seen with the recent up versus down event, these suck to farm. And for some reason, the devs put 15 of these as a requirement for the Solarian's resource, but then the event itself wanted you to have like over 50 of them. Hundreds of them, in fact. Pretty ridiculous when you think about it. Tom should be fired for that. In any case, when you end up getting trophies off of enemies from Sundered Uplands, more particularly the enemies up at the top, you can compost these in the gardening composting bin, or compost their trophies, and then you'll end up getting the Irradiant Souls. I will say, as a warning, when you are composting some of these souls, you do want to be careful which ones you do compost, because if I go over to the crafting table here, there are a bunch of different items that you can end up collecting for various resources, including the various souls that we just used for the Solarion. But then there's also going to end up being these souls, these trophies right here, that are used specifically to craft these various items. So you want to be very careful not to compost the Watch trophies and the Sunderer trophies, which those of course are rare drops off of the bosses from the 5-star dungeons in this biome, so it shouldn't affect you that much. Their trophies are very rare. But anyways, then you will finally be able to craft the Phoenix Soul, which is only one of 3 resources. We're just getting started. So the Sunbeam Container is the polar opposite, where you need resources from down below, and more particularly the Primal Gem Shards, which are going to make you want to uninstall this game, but I'm getting ahead of myself. First of all, there's going to be the Ember Slag Ore, which, as I mentioned, the Sundered Irradiant Ore is up top, whereas the Ember Slag Ore is down here. Looks like this. Very easy, stands out like a sore thumb. You do need 45,000 of the ore though, so haha, that's funny. And then the Ashen Soul, which you need 60 of. I don't know why, but this is pretty much the exact same. You'll end up getting trophies rarely from the Ashen dungeons down below, and then those can be composted into the Ashen souls. Then there's going to be the Ash Fern Sporling, which you need 35,000 of. Oh, good lord. I think these, right? Is it those guys that drop them, or is it just this grass? No, that just gives me Glim. Is it these things right here? That gave me Ash Fern Sporling. Okay, so it looks like this. The little hanging over, yeah, that's the Ash Fern Sporling. Again, I know I have a visual mod that makes it a lot more obvious to see that resource, but console players, just use your imagination, okay? And then there's going to end up being the Primal Gem Shard, and you need 45 of these. Okay, how do we get those? Through pain, trial, and turbulation. So, if you have one of these adventure crafting tables in your club, you're going to go to the gems tab, and you're going to see right here the Primal Gem Shard, which requires 4 sparks of each different elemental type. How do you get a gem spark? Well, the fire gem spark, all of them, in fact, cost 30,000 of their respective gem dust just to craft one of them. Which means that in order to craft the Primal Gem Shard, you're going to need 12,000 gem dust for fire, water, air, and cosmic. Now, I do have videos that cover this in more detail, but the short answer is if you have a lot of flux, gem dust is easier to obtain than you would think, at least if you're kind of at the mid to end game, because you basically will end up getting crystal gems as a drop if you can handle it. And then you will upgrade those gems to level 25, which is going to be pretty costly on your flux. But then when you loot collect that gem, you'll actually get a lot more gem sparks back than the amount of gem dust that it costs to level that gem up in the first place. So again, you're going to be losing the flux forever, but you'll actually get a lot more gem dust back. Otherwise, yeah, you need 45 of these, which means 12,000 times 45. 540k of all of the gem dust types just to end up crafting this stupid little tiny box. It gets worse, don't worry. But next resource is going to end up being the Unnatural Device. The Unnatural Device is another resource found down below, and this one, as far as I know, is pretty uncommon. Let me see if I can find one for you guys. Kind of really uncommon. Oh my god. Well, anyway, it's gonna look like this. Thankfully, I have the mod that shows me it, but yeah, it's not common to find it, and you need quite a few of them. Most of these resources are tradable though, so hopefully you get lucky and find them for a cheap enough value. I know you guys on console, it's gonna be significantly easier because of all the duping and stuff, but on PC, it's very, very expensive. And then there's going to end up being the last resource for the Solarion, which is 150 gem shards. Count it. That's 12,000 gem dust times 150. And that's not including the 45 that you needed out of this. Well, for these alone, you need 1.8 million of every gem dust type in order to craft the amount of sparks that are needed to craft the primal gem shards. This right here is why you just buy it. Just buy the class, because frankly speaking, the amount of time that you would have to invest in order to get all of these various resources, because keep in mind that gems are not tradable, which means that you have to earn this gem dust all by yourself. You can't rely on the market or anything like that. Yeah, it's cheaper for you to just get a part-time job for like a single day and get enough money to end up crafting the class. I know that that seems like a joke, but really it's actually ridiculous how expensive this class is. But at the very least, then you would end up having one of the strongest classes in the game. That does top the Boomeranger in terms of single target damage, but Boomer's a little bit better for groups. But anyways, regardless of all of that, I hope that you found this video helpful, and I hope that you ended up enjoying this series of video. I had a lot of fun with these, just kind of, improving and being my own funny, natural self. I hope it was funny anyways, and probably was cringe, but I don't care what TikTok Zoomers think. I only care what you guys think, and I hope you enjoyed it.